They miss you when your absence becomes real, not dramatic. And I know that sentence can hit like a cold truth, because so much of what you've done came from love, not from manipulation. You weren't trying to play games, you weren't trying to create a reaction. You were simply trying to hold onto something that mattered to you. But with an avoidant, the moment you try to hold tighter, they often slip further away, and then you panic, and the panic makes you reach again. And the reaching becomes the very thing that convinces them closeness is unsafe. So let me speak to you like someone who cares about your heart, because the goal here is not to win them, the goal is to stop losing you. And the first keynote is this: they don't miss you fully when you are still emotionally available on demand. They don't miss you when your presence is still leaking into their life through long messages, late night check-ins, and constant hope. They don't miss you when your pain is still performing for them, when your sadness still revolves around them, when your energy still tells them, even if you do nothing, you still have me. They start missing you when your absence becomes real, quiet, and clean. Real absence is not a breakup speech that lasts 3 pages. Real absence is not a dramatic exit with tears and threats. Real absence is you stepping back without begging them to notice. Real absence is the moment you stop offering your heart as a place they can visit only when they feel lonely. It's you no longer being the emotional background music in their life. It's you no longer providing comfort, attention, understanding, and access while they offer uncertainty in return. Because here is what you may not realize: an avoidant can tolerate your emotions as long as your emotions keep them important. Even if you're upset, even if you're hurt, even if you're crying, if you're still reaching, they still feel central. They still feel like the main character. They still feel like they have control. Because your love is still attached to their behavior. Your mood is still dependent on their responses, and that dependency, even if it is unintentional, gives them power. But when you become quiet, when you stop circling, when you stop chasing, that power disappears. And that is when something inside them finally wakes up, not always immediately, not in a romantic movie way, but in a slow, unsettling realization. They start to feel the empty space where your energy used to be. They start to notice that the connection isn't automatically snapping back into place. They start to understand that distance is not a temporary phase you will tolerate. It is a choice with consequences. And I know you might be thinking, but if I step back, won't they forget me? Won't they move on? Won't they just feel relieved? And yes, some will, and that truth is painful, but it is also protective. Because someone who feels relief when you stop giving them half access was never holding your heart with the care it deserved. Someone who can watch you disappear and feel nothing was never building with you. They were benefiting from you. And you don't need to be missed by someone who only valued you when you were convenient. But the avoidant who does care, the avoidant who has feelings but runs from intimacy, that person starts missing you when your absence is not emotional warfare, it is self-respect. Because dramatic absence still feeds them. Dramatic absence still keeps the cord attached. It says, look at me, chase me, prove yourself. But real absence says something far more powerful. I'm not here to argue with your pattern anymore. I'm not here to negotiate for basic effort. I'm not here to keep bleeding in private while you keep floating in and out. Real absence is you choosing peace over proving. It's you deciding that your love will not be used as a cushion for someone else's fear. It's you removing yourself from the cycle without needing to make them the villain. And this is why it hits. Because avoidants are often addicted to the safety of options. They like knowing you are there, even if they don't fully show up. They like knowing they can return, test the waters, get warmth, get reassurance, and then disappear again when things feel intense. Not always because they want to hurt you, but because it's the only way they know how to regulate closeness. They control the distance so they don't have to face vulnerability. Your real absence removes the option, and when the option disappears, reality arrives. They start thinking about the little moments they took for granted, the way you used to respond, the way you used to soften, the way you used to make space for them. They start remembering how safe it felt to be wanted without having to work for it. And now that it's gone, they feel something they don't like feeling: regret. Not regret that you loved them, regret that they didn't meet you there when they had the chance. But I need you to understand something. The purpose of real absence is not to make them regret. The purpose is to make you free. Because as long as you are constantly available, constantly explaining, constantly trying, you are the one keeping the story alive, and you are also the one keeping yourself stuck in limbo. Real absence closes the door on limbo. It says, I'm not going to keep living in uncertainty just because I'm afraid of losing you. And this is where your heart has to grow up in the most beautiful way, because real absence requires you to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing. It requires you to let silence sit. It requires you to stop checking for signs. It requires you to stop hunting for proof that they miss you. Because the moment you keep looking for evidence, you're still attached. And attachment is not the same as love. Attachment is often fear dressed up as devotion. So the question becomes, can you be absent in a way that is calm? Can you step back without needing to punish? Can you stop reaching without needing to announce it? Can you let your absence speak without translating it into another message? Because that is where the power is. The avoidant misses you when your energy is no longer accessible, when your attention is no longer free, when your warmth is no longer guaranteed. They miss you when you stop being predictable in the role of the one who always returns. They miss you when they realize you have chosen yourself and they can't pull you back into the same pattern with one sweet line. And if they come back, you don't reward the return with instant access. You don't melt because you've been starving. You don't hand them your heart because they finally felt lonely. You stay real. You stay steady. You require consistency, communication, an effort that lasts longer than a moment. Because the same absence that made them miss you is the same boundary that will make them value you. And if they don't come back, if they fade, if they vanish, then your real absence still saved you, because it pulled you out of a cycle that was slowly training you to accept less and call it love. It returned you to yourself. It gave you back your dignity. It reminded you that your presence is not something people get to access casually. So let your absence be real, not dramatic, not hateful, not performative, real, quiet, clean, a decision, a standard, a return to your own life. Because the most heartbreaking thing is not that they didn't miss you sooner. It's that you kept showing up for someone who didn't know how to hold you. And the most powerful thing you can do now is to step back, not to teach them a lesson, but to finally teach yourself that you were always worth choosing, and you don't have to beg anyone to see it. They begin to value you when you stop cushioning the consequences of their distance. And I know that sounds harsh at first, because you weren't trying to be someone's cushion. You were just trying to keep love alive. You were trying to keep the peace. You were trying to be understanding in a world where people leave too easily. You were trying to show them that you are safe, that you are patient, that you won't abandon them for having fears. And your heart meant well, but here is the truth. When you keep cushioning the consequences, you accidentally teach them that distance is free. Distance becomes free when they can pull away and still receive your warmth. Distance becomes free when they can go quiet and still know you'll be there. Distance becomes free when they can vanish, then return with a sweet line, and you treat the return like proof of love instead of proof of a pattern. Distance becomes free when they can keep one foot out the door and still enjoy all the benefits of your loyalty. And the reason this matters is because value is not created by your suffering. Value is created by boundaries that make reality clear. If you've ever felt like you were carrying the relationship on your back, that's because you were. You were doing the emotional labor, the checking in, the repairing, the clarifying, the forgiving, the holding space, the keeping the thread alive when they dropped it. You were translating their silence into excuses. They're busy, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're scared. You were building a bridge every time they burned one. And what did that do? It removed the natural consequence of their behavior. It made their distance comfortable because you made it comfortable for them. And I want you to hear this gently. You did not do that because you are weak. You did it because you love deeply. You did it because you have empathy. You did it because you believe connection can be repaired. But in an avoidant dynamic, empathy without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. Empathy without boundaries turns you into the one who pays the bill for someone else's emotional unavailability. And eventually, your heart gets tired, your chest gets heavy, your peace disappears, and you start asking the painful question, why don't they value me the way I value them? They don't value you fully when your love keeps saving them from the cost of their choices. Because here's what an avoidant is often doing, even if they don't admit it. They are testing how little they can give and still keep you. Not in a cruel, calculated way every time, but in a nervous system way. Their system wants closeness, but fears it. So they give a little, then retreat. They want connection, but panic when it becomes real. So they offer crumbs, then disappear. And if you keep reaching for them, if you keep smoothing it over, if you keep reassuring them that they can take space without any responsibility, the pattern becomes stable. It becomes normal. It becomes the relationship. And that is why this keynote is so important. Stopping the cushion does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming honest with reality. It means you stop absorbing the discomfort that belongs to their behavior. You stop being the one who feels all the anxiety while they feel all the freedom. You stop being the one who loses sleep while they sleep peacefully knowing you're still there. You stop being the one who questions your worth while they question whether they want to show up. So what does it look like to stop cushioning? It looks like you stop chasing silence. You stop sending the follow-up message that is really an apology for having needs. You stop offering reassurance to someone who hasn't asked for it with respect. You stop giving them access to your warmth when they are not giving you access to their consistency. You don't do it with anger, you do it with calm, because calm is what makes consequences real. Anger can be dismissed, drama can be blamed. Calm is undeniable. It looks like you hold the line if you disappear for days. I will not pretend that's normal. If you only show up when it's convenient, I will not reward that with full access. If you keep me in uncertainty, I will not keep investing like I'm in a committed relationship. That is not you being difficult, that is you being aligned with truth. Because the worst thing you can do to yourself is act committed to someone who is acting optional. And this is where it becomes emotional, because stopping the cushion will trigger your fear. Your fear will say, if I don't hold this together, it will fall apart. And your heart will feel guilty, because you'll think, maybe I'm abandoning them. Maybe I'm not being supportive enough. Maybe I'm being too strict. But you are not abandoning them. You are abandoning the role of carrying love alone. You are not being strict, you are being sane. You are not being cold, you are being clear. The woman they value is not the woman who never needs anything. It is the woman who refuses to pay for love with her self-respect. Because let's be honest, you can't make someone value you by giving them more. You can't make someone value you by proving you're different. You can't make someone value you by tolerating pain quietly. Value is created when your presence is meaningful and your absence is possible. When you demonstrate that your love is a gift, not a guarantee. When you show that access to you is earned through behavior, not through potential. And here's the part that most people miss. Consequences do not mean punishment. Consequences mean that you stop interfering with reality. If they pull away, they feel the distance. If they are inconsistent, they feel the lack of stability. If they don't communicate, they lose connection. That is not revenge. That is the natural result of the choices they made. You are simply no longer absorbing the discomfort for them. So the next time they go quiet, instead of chasing you, pause. You return to yourself. You ask, what is true right now? And if what is true is that they are not showing up, then you adjust your investment accordingly. You don't keep giving 100% to someone giving 30%. You don't keep building a future with someone who won't even build a week. You match reality, not hope. And when you match reality, something shifts in them. Because now, their behavior has a price. Now, the distance is no longer free. Now, the silence doesn't get rewarded with more attention. Now, the inconsistency doesn't get softened by your loyalty. They finally have to face the weight of their own choices. And that is when many avoidants start to value you. Because value often arrives when access requires intention. But I need you to remember, whether they value you or not, you must value you first. Because sometimes stopping the cushion reveals that the connection only existed because you were holding it. And that hurts, yes, but it also liberates you. It frees you from being trapped in a relationship that survives only through your suffering. So let consequences do their work. Let reality speak. Let your boundaries be the truth you no longer betray. Because the moment you stop cushioning their distance, you stop teaching them that half love is enough. You stop training them to be careless with your heart. You stop paying the bill for their fear. And either they step up, or they step out, but either way, you step back into your dignity. And that is where your real power has been waiting. They feel you most when you stop explaining yourself and start honoring yourself. And if that line makes your throat tighten, it's because you know how much you've tried to explain. You've tried to find the right words, the right tone, the right timing, the perfect message that would finally make them understand what you need, what you mean, what you feel. You've tried to be clear without being too much. You've tried to be honest without scaring them. You've tried to express your pain in a way that wouldn't push them away. And still, you ended up in the same place, holding your phone, holding your breath, holding your heart, wondering why your love feels like a speech that never gets heard. Here is the hard truth. You can't explain someone into valuing you. You can't communicate someone into emotional maturity if they are committed to distance. You can't write a paragraph long enough to fill a gap that was created by fear. And what makes an avoidant finally miss and value you is not your ability to talk them into it. It is your ability to respect yourself enough to stop talking when your words become a way of chasing. Because explaining can become a trap. At first it feels healthy. It feels mature. It feels like you're doing the right thing. You're communicating. You're being open. You're giving them a chance. But when you're dealing with someone avoidant, explaining can turn into begging without you noticing. It can turn into you trying to manage their emotions, trying to soften your needs, trying to make your request sound smaller so it won't scare them. And the more you explain, the more you send one message underneath all the words, I will keep trying even if you don't meet me. I will keep reaching even if you don't respond. I will keep translating your silence into something I can survive. And that message is not love, it is self-abandonment. It is you turning your dignity into a negotiation. The woman who becomes unforgettable to an avoidant is not the woman who had the best arguments. It is the woman who stopped arguing for her worth. She stopped defending her feelings like they were on trial. She stopped proving that her needs were valid. She realized that the right person will not require a presentation to treat you with care. The right person will not ask you to convince them that consistency matters. The right person will not make you explain why disappearing hurts. So she does something simple. She honors herself. And honoring yourself does not always look loud. It often looks like silence. Not the silent treatment, not punishment, not games, but silence that says, I have spoken enough, and now I am listening to actions. Because there comes a moment where words become noise, where the relationship becomes a cycle of you expressing and them retreating, you clarifying and them avoiding, you asking and them deflecting. And in that cycle you start losing your center. You start thinking, if I can just explain it differently, maybe they'll understand. But deep down, they understand. They just don't want to feel the responsibility that comes with understanding. They don't want to face the discomfort that comes with stepping up. So they stay vague, they stay distant, they stay confused. And your explaining keeps them comfortable in that vagueness. Honoring yourself is when you stop making vagueness comfortable. It's when you stop sending the second message, and the third, and the fourth, trying to pull a response out of them. It's when you stop pouring your heart into someone's inbox like it's a well that will finally give you water back. It's when you stop asking, did I say something wrong? And you start asking, is this the kind of love that honors me? And this is where it gets emotional, because stopping the explaining feels like losing control. Explaining is a way to feel like you're doing something. Explaining is a way to feel like you have a chance. Explaining keeps hope alive, because as long as you are talking, the story is still moving. The connection is still alive, you're still on it. But when you stop explaining, you have to face reality. You have to face what they are showing you. And facing reality can feel like grief. Because reality might be that they like you, but they don't show up. Reality might be that they miss you, but they won't choose you. Reality might be that they care, but they won't commit. And your heart will want to fight the truth with words. Your heart will want to bargain with it, to negotiate, to convince, to soften it. But honoring yourself is the moment you stop bargaining for basic decency. It is the moment you stop trying to be understood by someone who keeps choosing misunderstanding, because it's safer than accountability. And do you know what happens when you honor yourself? Your energy changes. You stop sounding like someone who is asking for permission to be loved. You stop sounding like someone who is afraid to lose them. You stop sounding like someone who will accept half effort if it's wrapped in sweet words. You start sounding like someone who knows her worth, because you start acting like it. Because here is what avoidants are used to. They are used to people who chase clarity. They are used to people who overfunction. They are used to people who carry the emotional load. They are used to people who make it easy for them to stay emotionally underdeveloped. But when you stop explaining, you remove that comfort. Suddenly, they can't hide behind confusion. Suddenly, they can't say, I didn't know what you wanted, because you stopped giving them endless chances to not know. Suddenly, they have to sit with the silence they created, without your words rescuing them from it. And that silence becomes loud in their mind, because it says, she is not chasing me anymore. She is not asking me to understand anymore. She is not trying to convince me anymore. She has accepted something, and now I can feel it. Because the most powerful message is not the one you send, it's the one you live. When you honor yourself, you stop explaining and you start embodying. You embody your standards. You embody your boundaries. You embody your self-respect. You embody the truth that your heart is not a public resource. So if they come back with a casual message, you don't respond with a flood of emotion. You respond calmly, and you watch. If they offer crumbs, you don't act grateful. If they avoid the real conversation, you don't chase it. You simply stay consistent with yourself. You don't punish them. You just don't reward what hurts you. That is honoring yourself. It is choosing behavior over promises. It is choosing peace over persuasion. It is choosing dignity over desperation. And this is why they finally miss and value you. Because for the first time, your presence is not something they can access through your hope. Your presence becomes something they can only access through their effort. Your energy is no longer available for free. Your love is no longer offered in exchange for potential. It is offered in response to reality. And if they still don't step up, if they still stay vague, if they still remain inconsistent, then honoring yourself gives you the strength to walk away without collapsing. It gives you the ability to grieve without begging. It gives you the power to leave without hating them. Because you finally understand, the goal was never to find the perfect words. The goal was to find the part of you that never needed to be proven. The part of you that was worthy before they ever arrived. So stop explaining yourself to someone who benefits from not understanding. Start honoring yourself with actions that match your value. Let your silence be calm. Let your absence be real. Let your standards be clear. Because the moment you stop trying to convince them, you become the truth they can't ignore. And whether they return or not, you return to you. And that is the love that lasts. They miss you when your life keeps moving and your light doesn't dim for them. And I want you to really sit with that, because your instinct has probably been the opposite. Your instinct has been to pause, to wait, to hold your breath, to treat their silence like a red light that stops your whole life. And you may not say it out loud, but your body says it. Your routines change, your appetite shifts, your mood sinks, your focus disappears. Because a part of you is still living for the moment they come back and make everything feel okay again. That is what an avoidant dynamic can do to a good heart. It can make you confuse waiting with loving. It can make you confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice. It can make you believe that if you keep your energy available, if you keep your heart open wide enough, they will eventually feel it and stay. But what actually makes an avoidant miss and value you is not your waiting. It is your life continuing without needing them to be the center of it. Because when your light dims for them, when you stop living, stop laughing, stop growing, stop moving, it may feel like devotion, but to an avoidant it often feels like pressure. It feels like, my absence can destroy her, my distance can break her, my decisions control her world. And if they already fear responsibility, if they already fear being needed, that power doesn't make them step up, it makes them retreat. They don't think, wow, I must cherish her. They think this is heavy, this is dangerous, this is too much. And they run from that weight. The woman who changes everything is the woman who refuses to make one person the sun that her whole life revolves around. She doesn't do that because she is cold. She does it because she is wise. She knows that love is not supposed to consume you. Love is supposed to expand you. And so when someone pulls away, she doesn't chase the shadow. She returns to the light inside her own life. And this is where it becomes emotional, because you might be thinking, but if I keep moving, doesn't that mean I didn't care? Doesn't that mean I'm pretending? Doesn't that mean I'm replacing them? No, it means you are refusing to abandon yourself. It means you are refusing to place your happiness on the unpredictable mood of someone who struggles with closeness. It means you are choosing to live like you are already valuable, not like you are waiting to be validated. And that is what an avoidant feels in their bones. Because avoidants are used to being the emotional center. They're used to being chased, even when they complain about it. They're used to someone's attention circling them, hoping for crumbs. They're used to having an exit door that still leads back to someone waiting. And when you keep moving, when your light stays on, it confuses the pattern they rely on. It removes the illusion that they can withdraw and still keep you exactly where they left you. Your life moving is not a punishment. It is a reality. It is you saying, I don't freeze when you disappear. I don't shrink when you get distant. I don't stop being myself because you're uncertain. And that message is so powerful because it does two things at the same time. It removes pressure because you are not demanding they come back to stabilize you. And it creates consequence because your life is not waiting at the door for them to return. That is the balance that makes an avoidant finally feel you. Not the dramatic goodbye, not the long explanation, not the emotional breakdown, your calm movement, your steady growth, your laughter that returns, your routines that hold you, your glow that refuses to dim. Because here's something that hurts but frees you. When you dim your light for someone, you may think you are showing them how much they matter, but you're actually hiding the very thing that made you valuable in the first place. Your vitality, your spirit, your presence, your ability to bring warmth into a room. If you turn that off to prove love, you are offering a version of you that is smaller, heavier, sadder, and you're hoping they will stay out of guilt, or pity, or obligation. But no healthy love is built on guilt. The woman they miss is the woman who is alive. The woman they value is the woman who is full. The woman they remember is the woman whose energy made them feel something, not the woman who begged them to feel something. So when you keep moving, you become a mirror. You mirror back to them what they lost. Not because you're showing off, not because you're trying to make them jealous, but because your absence becomes louder when your life is visible. They realize you are not sitting in the dark waiting for them to return. They realize you have a world, and they were invited into it, not worshipped inside it. They realize you are a gift, not a guarantee. And this is where the missing begins. It begins in small moments. They hear a song and think of you. They see a place and remember your laugh. They feel stress and remember the way your presence used to soothe them. They scroll and realize your energy is no longer there. Not the please love me energy, but the I am living energy. And that contrast hits them, because if your life is moving, they can't pretend you'll always be there. But I need you to take the focus back to where it belongs, not on what they feel, but on what you deserve. Because keeping your life moving is not just a strategy, it is the healthiest thing you can do for your heart. It protects you from becoming addicted to relief. It protects you from turning every message into a dopamine hit. It protects you from handing someone else the remote control to your peace. So you go to the gym even if your heart aches. You show up to work even if your mind is spinning. You meet your friends even if part of you wants to isolate. You pour into your goals even if you feel lonely. You do the small acts of self-respect that rebuild your identity. You remind yourself, I am not a waiting room. I am a whole life. And when you live like that, you become irresistible to the right kind of love. Because the right kind of love doesn't want someone who needs to be saved. It wants someone who is already standing. Someone who can share, not someone who must be carried. So let your light stay on. Let your life keep moving. Let your growth continue. Not to make an avoidant regret, but to make sure you never regret abandoning yourself for someone who couldn't meet you. Because the day you realize your happiness does not depend on their consistency is the day the dynamic breaks. And whether they come back or not, you will finally come back to you. And that return is the most valuable thing you could ever choose. They finally value you when you don't leave to punish, you leave to protect, and that difference is everything. Because punishment is loud, punishment wants a reaction, punishment wants them to feel what you felt. Punishment is secretly still attached to the hope that if they hurt enough, they will come running back and make it right. Protection is quieter, protection is calmer, protection is you realizing, I cannot keep bleeding in a place that keeps reopening my wounds. I cannot keep calling this love, while my nervous system is in survival. I cannot keep lowering my standards and calling it patience. And I know how hard this is, because you didn't want to leave. You wanted it to work. You wanted them to wake up without you having to walk away. You wanted to be chosen without having to detach. You wanted your love to be enough to soften their fear. And maybe you kept thinking, if I just stay gentle, if I just stay loyal, if I just stay understanding, they will finally feel safe. But what happens in an avoidant dynamic is that your gentleness can become a blanket they hide under. Your loyalty can become a guarantee they stop earning. Your understanding can become an excuse they keep using. So when you finally step back, your mind may call it leaving, but what you're actually doing is rescuing yourself from a cycle that was training you to accept less and less. Because protection is not a dramatic exit, it is a boundary that says, I can love you and still love me. I can miss you and still choose peace. I can care about your wounds and still refuse to be wounded by them. Punishment says, I want you to suffer. Protection says, I refuse to suffer. Punishment says, I'm leaving so you'll chase me. Protection says, I'm leaving because I can't chase you anymore. Punishment says, I want you to feel my absence as a weapon. Protection says, I need my absence as medicine. And this is why detachment with self-respect hits an avoidant so deeply. Because it removes the games, it removes the bargaining, it removes the chaos they can blame. It gives them something clean to face. It says, I'm not screaming, I'm not threatening, I'm not begging. I'm simply no longer available for half love. And when your boundary is clean, they cannot twist it into drama. They cannot call you too emotional. They cannot paint you as unstable. They are left with one uncomfortable truth. Their pattern has a cost. But I need you to understand, detachment is not coldness. Detachment is not you pretending you don't care. Detachment is you caring and still refusing to betray yourself. It's you holding your heart with both hands and saying, I won't throw you back into a place that keeps hurting you, just because I'm afraid of being alone. It's you finally choosing the kind of love that doesn't require you to be anxious every day. Because what you were doing before, without realizing it, was trying to keep the connection alive by sacrificing your own peace. You were replying quickly so they wouldn't drift. You were being low maintenance, so they wouldn't feel pressured. You were swallowing your needs so you wouldn't be labeled as demanding. You were turning your standards into silence, because you were afraid that if you spoke, they would leave. And the tragedy is, you were already losing them, but slowly, and in the process you were losing yourself faster. So protection looks like this. You stop negotiating for basic effort. You stop explaining your feelings to someone who keeps using your feelings as a reason to retreat. You stop offering endless access to your energy when they keep giving you uncertainty. You stop showing up fully in a connection where they show up halfway. Not to hurt them, but to stop hurting you. And here is the part that feels like grief. Because when you leave to protect, you don't get the immediate relief of revenge. You don't get the satisfaction of knowing they're devastated. You don't get the control of a dramatic ending. You have to sit with the quiet. You have to sit with missing them. You have to sit with the urge to reach out. You have to sit with the part of you that still wants to be chosen by someone who keeps choosing distance. Protection requires strength that no one claps for. It's lonely at first. It's uncomfortable. It's you learning to soothe yourself instead of chasing someone else to soothe you. It's you learning that your heart can ache and still survive. It's you learning that you can love someone and still walk away from what is harming you. And that is why it changes the dynamic, because an avoidant is used to two endings. Either you chase and they control the distance, or you explode and they blame the emotion. But when you detach with calm self-respect, you remove both familiar scripts. There is nothing to fight. There is nothing to debate. There is only your quiet decision, I'm not available for this anymore. And suddenly, they feel something they've been avoiding reality. They feel the space you used to fill. They feel the absence of your reassurance. They feel the loss of your emotional labor. They feel what it's like when you stop buffering their behavior. And if they have any capacity to reflect, that is when the missing begins, not as a romantic fantasy, but as a confrontation with what they took for granted. They start remembering how you made things easier, how you forgave quickly, how you stayed kind even when you were hurt, how you kept the connection warm while they kept it uncertain. And the moment you stop doing that, they feel the difference. Because your love was not just affection, it was stability, it was patience, it was presence, it was an emotional home they could enter without building one with you. And now it's gone, because you finally realized you cannot be someone's home while you are homeless in yourself. But here is where you must stay honest, because the point is not to get them to miss you. The point is to stop missing yourself. The point is to stop abandoning your standards just to keep proximity. The point is to stop calling it love when it's actually anxiety, effort, and hope doing all the work. So if they come back, you don't punish them with coldness. You don't test them with games. You don't make them earn you through suffering. You simply require truth. You require consistency. You require communication. You require effort that lasts longer than a moment of loneliness. You let their actions rebuild trust, slowly, steadily over time. Because protection means you do not hand your heart back to someone just because they knocked once. And if they don't come back, if they stay distant, if they move on, then your protection still saved you. Because it ended the cycle that was making you smaller. It ended the pattern that was teaching you to accept scraps. It returned your power to the only place it ever belonged, inside you. Detachment with self-respect is not a threat. It is a boundary that says, I won't keep proving my value to someone who keeps doubting it with their behavior. It is you stepping out of the role of the one who always understands, always waits, always forgives, always stays, even when it hurts. It is you choosing the kind of love that does not require you to lose your dignity to keep someone close. It is you finally becoming the person who protects your heart the way you always hoped someone else would,